The manor stood alone against the grey Yorkshire sky, its Victorian stones weathered by decades of rain and wind. Inside, the rooms smelled of old wood and damp earth, and the silence pressed against the walls like a living thing. Emma sat by the window of the second-floor bedroom, her fingers tracing patterns on the cold glass. Outside, the moors stretched endlessly, brown and desolate under the November clouds. She had stopped counting the days 3 weeks ago. Time had become meaningless in this place, where every morning looked identical to the last. The room was comfortable enough, a proper bed with clean sheets, a small desk, even books on a shelf, but comfort meant nothing when the door was locked from the outside. Daniel entered without knocking. Carrying a tray with tea and toast, he never knocked anymore. He placed the tray on the desk and stood there, watching her with that expression she had come to recognize, concern mixed with something darker, something possessive. "You didn't eat dinner last night," he said quietly. His voice carried the flat vowels of northern England, though education had smoothed most of the rough edges. Emma didn't turn from the window. "I wasn't hungry." "You need to eat. You're getting too thin." "Then let me go." Her voice was hollow, stripped of the anger that had burned so fiercely in the beginning. Now there was only exhaustion. Daniel moved closer, and she felt his presence behind her like a shadow. He was tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of man who looked like he belonged outdoors rather than in these dim rooms. His dark hair was always slightly disheveled, as if he ran his hands through it too often, and there were lines around his eyes that suggested he slept as poorly as she did. "You know I can't do that," he said. "Not yet. It's not safe." She finally turned to look at him. Safe for whom? For me or for you? Something flickered across his face. Guilt, perhaps, or frustration. He picked up the teacup and held it out to her. "Please, just drink something." Emma took the cup because it was easier than fighting. The tea was hot and properly made, milk and 1 sugar, exactly how she liked it. He paid attention to details like that, which somehow made everything worse. A captor who didn't care would have been easier to hate. "How long are you going to keep this up?" she asked, staring into the pale brown liquid. "Keeping me here like some kind of prisoner while you pretend this is normal?" "I'm not pretending anything." Daniel sat down on the edge of the bed, his hands clasped between his knees. "I know what this is. I know what I've done. But Marcus is still out there, Emma. He's still looking for you, and if he finds you, then that's my problem to deal with, not yours." She set the cup down harder than intended, tea sloshing onto the saucer. "You don't get to make these decisions for me. You had no right." "I had every right." His voice rose slightly, then he caught himself, forcing it back down. "After what he did to you, after what I saw that night, so you decided to become him." Emma stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the wooden floor. "You took me from my flat, brought me to this place in the middle of nowhere, and locked me in a room. How is that different from what he did?" Daniel stood as well, and for a moment they faced each other across the small space. His grey eyes were stormy, conflicted. "Because I'm trying to protect you, not hurt you." "Protection?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Daniel, I'm losing my mind in here. I can't sleep properly. I can't think straight. I spend hours staring at these walls, wondering if I'll ever see the outside world again. If you wanted to protect me, you're doing a terrible job." He looked away first, his jaw tight. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "I'm doing the best I can." "Your best is killing me," Emma said softly, just slower than Marcus would have. The words hung between them like smoke. Daniel turned and walked to the door, his shoulders rigid. He paused with his hand on the handle, not looking back. "I'll bring lunch at noon," he said. "Try to eat something." Then he was gone, and she heard the familiar sound of the key turning in the lock. Emma returned to the window, pressing her forehead against the glass. In the distance, she could see the faint lights of a farmhouse miles away across the moors. So close, and yet impossibly far. She closed her eyes and tried to remember what freedom felt like. The morning brought rain, heavy and relentless, hammering against the windows and turning the moors into a grey blur. Emma lay in bed longer than usual, wrapped in the duvet, listening to the storm. There was something almost comforting about the weather. At least it matched her internal landscape. She thought about Manchester, about her life before all of this, the flat she had shared with her sister near Piccadilly, the coffee shop where she worked, the evening walks along the canal. It felt like remembering someone else's life now, something that had happened to a different person entirely. Daniel had been part of that life too, though on the periphery. He was her sister's colleague, a researcher at the university where Sarah worked in the literature department. Emma had met him at department gatherings, occasional dinners. He was quiet, thoughtful, the kind of man who listened more than he spoke. She had liked him in an abstract way, the way you like someone you don't really know. Then Marcus happened. She had met Marcus at a gallery opening in the Northern Quarter. He was charming, successful, exactly the kind of man who seemed too good to be true. And he was. It took 3 months for the charm to crack and reveal what lay beneath. Jealousy, control, a need to possess that gradually became suffocating. When she tried to leave, things escalated. The messages, the showing up at her work, the veiled threats. Then the night he forced his way into her flat, drunk and furious, and Sarah had called Daniel in panic because she didn't know who else to turn to. Daniel had arrived to find Marcus shouting. Emma backed into a corner of her bedroom, Sarah on the phone with the police. He had put himself between Marcus and the sisters, his usual quiet demeanor replaced by something harder, more dangerous. Marcus had left, but not before promising he would be back, that Emma belonged to him, that she couldn't hide forever. The police took a statement. They said they would investigate. Daniel had driven Emma and Sarah back to Sarah's place, and they had all sat in the kitchen drinking tea, while Emma shook and couldn't stop shaking. "I'll keep an eye on things," Daniel had said before leaving. "Make sure he doesn't come back." 3 days later, Emma had gone to collect some belongings from her flat, and Daniel had offered to accompany her for safety. Except they never made it to the flat. Somewhere along the M62, Daniel had taken an exit she didn't recognize, and when she questioned him, he said he needed to make a quick stop first. The quick stop had been this manor house, and she hadn't left since. The lock clicked, pulling Emma from her memories. Daniel entered with breakfast, porridge with honey, fresh fruit, orange juice. He looked tired, dark circles under his eyes, his shirt wrinkled as if he'd slept in it. "The storm's supposed to last all day," he said, setting the tray on the desk. He glanced at her, still in bed. "Are you all right?" "Define all right," Emma said flatly. He sighed and sat in the chair by the desk, rubbing his face with both hands. "I spoke with Sarah yesterday." Emma sat up immediately, her heart racing. "You what?" "I called her. I thought—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I thought hearing her voice might help, knowing she's okay." "You called my sister?" Emma's voice rose with incredulity. "What did you tell her? Does she know where I am?" "I told her you're safe, that you're somewhere Marcus can't find you, and that you're all right." "Did she believe you?" "I don't know." Daniel looked down at his hands. "She's worried sick. She wanted to speak to you, but I couldn't. I can't let her know where we are. Not yet." Emma threw off the duvet and stood, anger flooding back in a hot rush. "So now you're torturing her too? She must think I've been murdered. She's probably terrified, and you're playing these games." "It's not a game." Daniel stood as well, his voice sharp. "Marcus has contacts, Emma. He's been to the police station asking questions. He's been to your sister's building 3 times this week. If Sarah knew where you were, he would find out. He would find a way." "You're paranoid." "I'm realistic." He stepped closer. and there was an intensity in his eyes that made her fall silent. Marcus Hartley isn't some spurned boyfriend, Emma. His family has money, connections, lawyers who can make problems disappear. The police won't touch him. They've already closed your case for lack of evidence. You're not missing officially because Sarah can't prove anything happened to you. You're just gone. And if he finds you, there won't be anyone to stop him this time. Emma wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm room. And your solution is to make me disappear yourself? To become my new prison warden? My solution is to keep you alive until I can figure out a permanent way to keep you safe. Daniel's voice softened. I know this is awful. I know you hate me for it. But I watched him hurt you that night, Emma. I saw the fear in your eyes, and I swore I wouldn't let him near you again. So you decided to control me instead, Emma said quietly. You took away my choices, my freedom, my life. You became exactly what you were trying to protect me from. Daniel flinched, as if she'd struck him. For a long moment, he said nothing, just stood there looking at her with something like anguish on his face. Maybe you're right, he finally said. Maybe I am no different, but at least you're alive to hate me for it. He left the room without another word, and Emma heard the lock turn with its usual finality. She sat down heavily on the bed, her hands shaking. The worst part was that she understood his logic in a twisted way. Marcus was dangerous, and the system had failed her. But understanding didn't make this cage any less suffocating. She looked at the breakfast tray, at the careful way he'd arranged everything. And she hated that even now, even knowing what he'd done, part of her still recognized the Daniel she'd met at those department dinners, the quiet man who had seemed so kind. That was the cruelest part of all. The rain finally stopped on the fourth day, leaving the world outside clean and sharp. Emma stood at the window watching clouds break apart to reveal patches of blue sky. It was the first real sunlight she'd seen in nearly a week, and it made her chest ache with longing. She heard Daniel's footsteps in the hallway before the door opened. He had developed a pattern over the weeks: breakfast at 8, lunch at 1, dinner at 7. Between those times the house was mostly silent, except for occasional sounds of him moving around downstairs. She wondered what he did during those hours, alone with whatever guilt or justification he carried. I thought we could eat lunch outside today, Daniel said from the doorway. In the garden, if you'd like. Emma turned to stare at him. Outside. The back garden is walled. No one can see in from the road. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. I thought fresh air might help. It was such a small thing, such an insignificant gesture, but Emma felt tears prick her eyes unexpectedly. She blinked them away, refusing to let him see. What's the catch? No catch. Just lunch in the garden. Will I be shackled? Leashed like a dog? Daniel's expression tightened. I'm trying to do something decent here, Emma. You don't have to come if you don't want to. She did want to, desperately, and hating herself for it, she nodded. Fine, yes. 20 minutes later, she stepped outside for the first time in over a month. The sensation was overwhelming. Cool air on her face, the smell of wet earth and grass, the vast openness of the sky overhead. Her legs felt weak, and she had to steady herself against the doorframe. The garden was overgrown but beautiful in a wild way, surrounded by high stone walls covered in ivy. There was an old iron table with 2 chairs, and Daniel had set out sandwiches, crisps, fruit, simple food, but it looked like a feast. Emma sat down slowly, feeling dizzy from sensory overload. Everything seemed too bright, too real. Daniel sat across from her, watching her carefully as if she might bolt at any moment. How do you know this place? She asked, picking up half a sandwich without really looking at it. This house. It belonged to my grandfather, Daniel said. He left it to me when he died 5 years ago. I've been meaning to sell it, but He trailed off, looking around the garden. I kept putting it off. Convenient, having a remote property no one knows about. He didn't rise to the bait. I didn't plan this, Emma. I didn't wake up one day and decide to bring you here. That night after Marcus broke into your flat, I barely slept. I kept thinking about what would have happened if Sarah hadn't called me, if I'd arrived 10 minutes later. And then I found out the police weren't taking it seriously, that Marcus's family was making the whole thing go away. So you took matters into your own hands. Emma bit into the sandwich, cheese and tomato, fresh bread, and her stomach growled despite everything. I panicked, Daniel admitted. When you asked me to go with you to collect your things, all I could think was that Marcus might be waiting there, that he'd hurt you, and this time I wouldn't be able to stop it. So I drove here instead, and then I couldn't figure out how to undo it. You could have turned around. You could have brought me home. And then what? Marcus comes back. And next time, there's no one there to stop him. Daniel leaned forward, his voice intense. I know this is wrong, Emma. I know I've become the villain in your story, but I couldn't. He stopped, his jaw working. I couldn't let him hurt you again. Emma set down the sandwich, her appetite gone. You barely knew me. We'd met maybe 5 times. Why do you care so much? The question hung between them. Daniel looked away, staring at the ivy-covered walls. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost reluctant. Because I knew what it felt like, to be trapped with someone who hurts you. Emma went very still. What do you mean? My mother, he said flatly. She was with a man for 7 years after my father died. Stepfather, officially. Though he never acted like family, he was controlling. Violent when he drank, which was often. She couldn't leave, or she thought she couldn't. No money, nowhere to go, no one who believed her when she tried to get help. Daniel, I was too young to protect her properly, he continued as if she hadn't spoken, just a kid watching it happen, feeling useless. When I was 16, he put her in the hospital, broken ribs, concussion. That's when she finally left, but it took nearly dying for her to get free. And even then, the system failed her. He got a fine community service. 6 months later, he was bothering her again. Emma felt her anger fracture, complicated by unwanted sympathy. I'm sorry that happened to you both. But that doesn't justify this. I know. He met her eyes, and she saw genuine pain there. But when I saw Marcus that night, I saw him, my stepfather, the same entitlement, the same rage, and I saw my mother in you, trapped, terrified, with nowhere to turn. I couldn't walk away. I couldn't let it happen again. So you decided to trap me yourself, Emma said softly. You saw me as helpless, as someone who needed saving. And you took away my choice, just like Marcus did, just like your stepfather did to your mother. Daniel's face went white. It's not the same. Isn't it? Emma stood, her legs shaky but holding. You all think you know what's best for me. You all think you have the right to control my life because you've decided I can't handle it myself. The reasoning might be different, Daniel. But the result is identical. I'm still locked in a room. I'm still a prisoner. He stood too, his chair scraping against the stone patio. I'm trying to protect you. I didn't ask you to. Her voice cracked, weeks of suppressed emotion finally breaking through. I didn't ask for any of this. Yes, Marcus scared me. Yes, I was afraid. But you stole my life, Daniel. You took me away from my sister, my home, everything I knew, and you call it protection. It's possession, it's control, and the fact that you can't see the difference terrifies me more than Marcus ever did. The words seemed to hit him physically. He took a step back, his face crumbling into something raw and broken. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Emma turned and walked back into the house, into her gilded cage, because where else could she go? She heard Daniel sink into the chair behind her, and for the first time since this began, she thought she heard him cry, but she didn't turn back. She couldn't afford to. The dynamic shifted after their conversation in the garden. Daniel still brought meals at regular intervals, but he spoke less now, his eyes haunted. Emma noticed he had lost weight too, his clothes hanging looser, his movements careful, like someone in constant pain. A week after the garden lunch, he came to her room in the evening with something new, a mobile phone. Emma looked at it suspiciously. "What's this?" "It's locked to this house's Wi-Fi only. No signal, no GPS, no way to trace the location." He set it on the desk. "But you can video call Sarah. I thought you should talk to her." Emma's hands trembled as she picked up the phone. "Why now?" "Because you were right." Daniel stood by the door, not quite looking at her. "About all of it. I've been lying to myself, calling this protection when it's just control. My issues became yours, and that's not fair. It's not right." "So you're letting me go?" Hope flared dangerously in her chest. "I don't know yet." His honesty was almost worse than a lie. "Marcus is still active, still looking, but I can't keep doing this to you. I can't watch you fade away in this room and pretend I'm the hero of this story." He left before she could respond. Emma stared at the phone in her hands, then opened the video call app. Sarah's number was already programmed in. Her finger hovered over the call button, trembling. When Sarah's face appeared on screen, Emma broke down completely. Emma, oh my God, where are you?" Sarah's voice was frantic, her eyes red from crying. "Are you hurt? What happened?" "I'm okay," Emma managed between sobs. "I'm safe. I'm not hurt. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Where are you? Tell me where you are. I'll come get you right now." "I can't. I'm not sure exactly." Emma wiped her face, trying to compose herself. "How are you? Are you all right?" "How am I? Emma, you've been missing for 6 weeks. The police have been useless. Marcus keeps showing up pretending to be concerned. And Daniel calls every few days to tell me you're fine, but won't let me speak to you. I've been losing my mind." "I know. I'm so sorry." They talked for nearly an hour. Sarah asking questions Emma mostly couldn't answer. Emma just grateful to hear her sister's voice. When the call ended, Emma felt paradoxically both better and worse, connected to her life again, but more aware than ever of what had been taken from her. Over the following days, Daniel allowed her more freedoms. The garden became available whenever she wanted. He brought her proper clothes from a shopping trip, replacing the limited wardrobe she'd been cycling through. He even left the bedroom door unlocked during the day, though the outer doors to the house remained secured. Emma explored the manor properly for the first time. It was larger than she'd realized, full of old furniture covered in dust sheets, photographs of people she didn't recognize, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. In the kitchen, she found Daniel sitting at the table with his laptop, surrounded by papers. "What are you working on?" she asked. He looked up, startled. "Research, trying to find legal options. Ways to get a proper restraining order that Marcus's family can't circumvent, maybe even build a case that would actually stick." Emma sat down across from him. "You really didn't plan this, did you?" "No." He closed the laptop. "I wish I had. Then maybe I would have realized how badly I was about to ruin both our lives." "Why don't you just let me go, Daniel?" It was a genuine question, not an accusation. "Really? What's stopping you at this point?" He was quiet for a long time. "Fear, I suppose. Fear that the moment you leave, Marcus will find you. Fear that I'll see on the news that something happened to you, and I'll know I could have prevented it. Fear that letting go means accepting I've done all this for nothing." "Sunk cost fallacy," Emma said softly. "You've invested so much in this choice that admitting it was wrong feels impossible." "Maybe." He smiled sadly. When did you become the wise one? When I had nothing to do but think for 6 weeks. They sat in the kitchen as afternoon faded to evening, talking more honestly than they ever had. Daniel told her about his mother, now living peacefully in Scotland with a kind man who treated her well. Emma told him about the life she'd had in Manchester, the dreams she'd put on hold, the person she'd been before Marcus and before this. I used to want to be a teacher, she said. Work with primary school children. I was even looking at courses before, everything. You'd be good at that, Daniel said. You're patient, kind, even when you have every reason not to be. I'm not kind to you. You shouldn't be. I don't deserve it. That night, Emma lay in bed thinking about impossible situations and flawed people trying their best and failing anyway. She thought about how Daniel's trauma had collided with hers, creating this disaster neither of them knew how to escape. She thought about Marcus, still out there, and what freedom would actually mean if it came with constant fear, and she thought about the fact that, despite everything, she no longer hated Daniel. She pitied him, maybe even understood him in a broken sort of way. The next morning, Daniel knocked on her bedroom door, actually knocked for the first time in weeks, and when she opened it, he looked determined and terrified in equal measure. I'm going to take you home, he said, back to Manchester. We'll go to the police together. I'll turn myself in for what I've done, and we'll make them take the situation with Marcus seriously, even if it means I end up in prison for this. Emma stared at him. You're serious. I can't fix what I've done, but I can stop making it worse. He held out his car keys. We leave in an hour. Pack whatever you want to take. As Emma gathered the few belongings she had, her hands shook with relief, fear, and something more complicated she couldn't name. The road ahead was uncertain, explaining her disappearance, dealing with Marcus, watching Daniel face consequences for his actions. But as they drove away from the manor house, the Yorkshire moors spreading vast and brown under a grey sky, Emma felt something she hadn't experienced in 6 weeks. The possibility of a future that belonged to her again. Whatever came next would be her choice to make. And that, finally, was freedom. The dynamic shifted after their conversation in the garden. Daniel still brought meals at regular intervals, but he spoke less now. His eyes haunted. Emma noticed he had lost weight too, his clothes hanging looser, his movements careful, like someone in constant pain. A week after the garden lunch, he came to her room in the evening with something new, a mobile phone. Emma looked at it suspiciously. What's this? It's locked to this house's Wi-Fi only. No signal, no GPS, no way to trace the location. He set it on the desk. But you can video call Sarah, I thought. I thought you should talk to her. Emma's hands trembled as she picked up the phone. Why now? Because you were right. Daniel stood by the door, not quite looking at her. About all of it. I've been lying to myself, calling this protection when it's just control. My issues became yours, and that's not fair. It's not right. So you're letting me go? Hope flared dangerously in her chest. I don't know yet. His honesty was almost worse than a lie. Marcus is still active, still looking. But I can't keep doing this to you. I can't watch you fade away in this room and pretend I'm the hero of this story. He left before she could respond. Emma stared at the phone in her hands, then opened the video call app. Sarah's number was already programmed in. Her finger hovered over the call button, trembling. When Sarah's face appeared on screen, Emma broke down completely. Emma, oh my God, where are you? Sarah's voice was frantic, her eyes red from crying. Are you hurt? What happened? I'm okay, Emma managed between sobs. I'm safe. I'm not hurt. Sarah, I'm so sorry. Where are you? Tell me where you are. I'll come get you right now. I can't. I'm not sure exactly. Emma wiped her face, trying to compose herself. How are you? Are you all right? How am I? Emma, You've been missing for 6 weeks. The police have been useless. Marcus keeps showing up pretending to be concerned. And Daniel calls every few days to tell me you're fine, but won't let me speak to you. I've been losing my mind." "I know. I'm so sorry." They talked for nearly an hour. Sarah asking questions Emma mostly couldn't answer. Emma just grateful to hear her sister's voice. When the call ended, Emma felt paradoxically both better and worse, connected to her life again, but more aware than ever of what had been taken from her. Over the following days, Daniel allowed her more freedoms. The garden became available whenever she wanted. He brought her proper clothes from a shopping trip, replacing the limited wardrobe she'd been cycling through. He even left the bedroom door unlocked during the day, though the outer doors to the house remained secured. Emma explored the manor properly for the first time. It was larger than she'd realized, full of old furniture covered in dust sheets, photographs of people she didn't recognize, a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. In the kitchen, she found Daniel sitting at the table with his laptop, surrounded by papers. "What are you working on?" she asked. He looked up, startled. "Research, trying to find legal options. Ways to get a proper restraining order that Marcus's family can't circumvent, maybe even build a case that would actually stick." Emma sat down across from him. "You really didn't plan this, did you?" "No." He closed the laptop. "I wish I had. Then maybe I would have realized how badly I was about to ruin both our lives." "Why don't you just let me go, Daniel?" It was a genuine question, not an accusation. "Really? What's stopping you at this point?" He was quiet for a long time. "Fear, I suppose. Fear that the moment you leave, Marcus will find you. Fear that I'll see on the news that something happened to you, and I'll know I could have prevented it. Fear that letting go means accepting I've done all this for nothing." "Sunk cost fallacy," Emma said softly. "You've invested so much in this choice that admitting it was wrong feels impossible.